Iowa Live.
From the Kyle Chevrolet Studios in West Des Moines, welcome to Iowa Live. I am Lou, and it is time to visit with one of our buddies, attorney Kim Baer, joining us in studio right now. And we're talking about something today, Kim, that involves dollars and cents.
Yes. I thought we'd talk about alimony because there's a lot of misconception in Iowa about alimony.
Okay, so first and foremost, explain what alimony really is.
Yes, so alimony is a portion of a divorce, and it's financial support. Now we call it spousal support. That's kind of the PC term.
Right.
Spousal support for the spouse that is leaving the marriage, that either is not making as much money, can't support themselves, helped the other partner become a doctor or supported their education. So there's just lots of things that alimony or spousal support is meant to address.
Okay, now you mentioned cannot support themselves. Is that an important factor in all this?
Yes, there are several factors. I mean, so we look at the length of the marriage because short-term marriages generally don't qualify for alimony. I mean, there are exceptions to the rule. So we look at the length of the marriage, we look at how much each party's making, we look at ability to earn money, we look at education level. And then we also look at property settlement and how much money the spouse who might be entitled to alimony, what are they leaving the marriage with?
Okay, so there are different types of alimony.
Yes, there are different types. So traditional alimony is the alimony that typically is for life.
Okay.
And that's going to apply in a long-term marriage, which generally is going to be 20 years or more.
Okay.
Now, if you're at 18 or 19 years, I mean, it might be an issue. Then we have rehabilitative alimony, and that's to help get a spouse kind of back into the workforce. So maybe somebody who was a stay-at-home parent and now needs some help getting into the workforce.
Oh, okay.
Then we have reimbursement alimony, and a good example of that, Lou, is if you and I were married and I helped put you through medical school, and then maybe we moved to support your career, and so I gave up a job.
Sure.
And so that's just kind of reimbursing me for what I gave up to support you.
Wow.
And then we have something that's kind of new, and it's transitional alimony.
All right.
And so it's kind of a mixture of the traditional and the rehabilitative. And the thought is that if you and I are living in marriage, and let's say you're the high dollar earner, and I just need some money to transition me into my own life, then maybe then that's what we're going to kind of look at, and that's really based more on what I'm used, our cost of living, what we're used to, the style of living, what we're used to living in. If I'm going to go from $1 million house and being able to spend $10,000 a month, and now I am severely limited, but we haven't been married very long, then maybe transitional alimony might apply.
Okay, you've mentioned the different levels of marriage, and that is really important, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, in general, if you've been married for 5 years or less, we don't see alimony awarded very often.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
Because it's a short-term marriage. Now there are exceptions, and part of the problem in Iowa is that we don't have a lot of clear rules. We don't have alimony guidelines. We can show you 10 cases that all look fairly similar, and they have 10 different results.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because the courts say it's very fact dependent, and so a variation on one fact really might make a big difference.
Okay. Now, what about a mid marriage, if they call it, like between 10 and 20 years? How does that?
Right, exactly. So 5 and under is really kind of short term. 10 and under, between 5 and 10, you probably might qualify for some alimony, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, something like that.
So there is a time limit.
There is kind of a time limit, and again, these are just general guidelines that I'm giving you because every case is very different. But then if you get to 15, 20, and 20 years and more, then you're really looking at more like traditional alimony. And then it's also, we look at the ages of the spouse. Spouses, for instance, I talked to somebody yesterday, they're in their 40s. It would be a traditional alimony case, but because they're so young, there might be some wiggle room there because they'd been married for 23 years. So.
Okay, so with that long term, does that long term continue then for life?
Typically, yes. Typically, that's what we're talking about. Now, again, again, you can negotiate these things. And so sometimes what we try to do is we negotiate until the spouse is 62 or 65 and is going to start getting, Medicare.
Another income, yeah.
Exactly. Or if you're the person paying alimony, maybe we try to buy you you out of alimony and we say, okay, we're going to give the spouse who needs alimony more money, more property, so that we can close the door on alimony. And the reason for that too is that alimony typically, not always, but typically can be modified.
That's my next question.
Yes, yes. So those are all issues that I talk about with people with regard to options. I mean, so we look at lots of different cases, and now my law firm keeps a chart where we have all the cases with here's the factors and here's what the court awarded, so that we can give that to clients so they can kind of see what range they're looking at. The other thing I wanted to talk about is alimony typically ends when somebody remarries or even cohabitates, and a lot of times the cohabitation is not in their decree, and that's because our courts say typically that's not something we should put in the decree.
Right.
But if I'm divorced and I'm receiving $10,000 a month in alimony and I move in with you and you're now helping me with expenses, then my ex-husband might want to talk to his attorney about seeing whether or not he can modify or even end the alimony. We have to look and see what kind of alimony it is and whether that's an option.
A lot of questions to be asked and a lot of answers to be had, and someone needs to get a hold of you. What's the easiest way to do
Yeah, sure. Just give us a call at 515-279-2000. We're always happy to kind of take a look at your situation and give you our best advice.
Yeah, BaerLawOffice.com as well. Send Kim a note. She does get back to you rather quickly.
We try.
Yes, thank you so much. Great job as always.
Okay, thanks.
We will be right back.